Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, gang, let's do this. Welcome to The Lock Shop and let the madness begin. The tournament is officially underway. March Madness is on, and we're going to be all over it today on The Lock Shop as we get into a huge day of first-round matchups. Got a couple on right now. High Point and Purdue tied, and Creighton pumping Louisville early on so far. We'll get to those. We're actually going to get into just our thoughts on the bracket overall now that the bets are in. And, of course, we've got a big night tonight in the National Hockey League and a big game for lock shoppers. Jets, Oilers tonight in Edmonton. By the way, if you're in Winnipeg and looking to join the gang, we've got a WST watch party happening down at the Boston Pizza on McPhillips in Garden City. Would love to see you down there. We're doing that with our friends at Little Brown Jug, so it should be a good time. And I know people in Edmonton are going to be fired up for this one as well. Tommy Gazzola, actually, the handsome one, will join me on WST a little later on to get fired up for this one tonight. But I don't need to get these two gentlemen fired up because they were ready to go bright and early today. JBM, P. Greggy, it is on right now. And interesting start to these two games. We're sort of really pulling in, and I'm all in on this High Point game. Picked it in our pool, and of course we got Winnipeg Simon Hildebrand, former U of M Bison, playing right now for the underdog High Point club, but they're hanging in there so far. But Jake, not good if you went heavy on Louisville so far. Yikes, they are getting absolutely run out the building right now, early on at least, by Creighton.
Yeah, you're preaching right to me, Huss. I'm the guy with a Louisville ticket in his pocket here. I picked them in our spread draft, and it's not looking too good right now for the Louisville Cardinals. You know, this is one of those ones where I was like, oh, they're in Lexington. You know, they should have a good crowd behind them. And at moments in the game they have. But Creighton just refuses to miss shots. And, yeah, they're taking it to them right now. I think they're up 15 at the half. Louisville was able to score a three just right at the buzzer there to kind of cut into that lead. So we'll see. I mean, we saw what happened with Xavier yesterday. I think they were down 10 at the half in the first four game. They clawed their way back into the game. And, you know, college basketball, Patty and I always say this, it's a game of runs. And Louisville's going to need a good run to start the second half. We'll see if they can get back into it. But, yeah, like you said, High Point sticking right in this one early with Purdue.
Yeah, and listen, really cool to see our guy Simon Hildebrand. He's already been out there getting into it, but High Point hanging in there right now. That's just a 1-point game again. They're still in the first, but it is a 15-point lead for Creighton at halftime. Up 15, as they say. We'll pay attention to that game. Coming up in the next little bit, we've got a 12:30 tip-off between Montana and Wisconsin. And then SIU Edwardsville, the 16th seed, going up against Houston, the number 1 seed in their bracket. That is a 1 o'clock start here, noon out in Edmonton. And a little later on, we've got another 1:16 game. Alabama State, who won the play-in game, they're taking on the number 1 seed Auburn. And then Clemson McNeese. Listen, before we kind of get to a few picks and plays for the other games later on, let's dive into our brackets now that they're done. Shout out to everyone that jumped in any of the bracket challenges. Jake, why don't you start?
Yeah, sorry, we're getting like major kickback. I don't know if you're hearing the same. I've got like commercials or something going on. I don't know if that's headquarters or one of you guys listening to TV a little loud. But
yeah, YouTube, Trev. Right any way we can take care of that? I thought maybe one of you guys were just cranking the volume in the background.
I'm sitting here like I can barely even hear what Huss is trying to ask. Yeah, let's go into the brackets, Huss. Let's do this. All right, I think we're good now.
First of all, who did you guys have winning your bracket? Like the entire thing? Who's the team at the end of it all cutting down the nets?
I got Florida, the Gators. Part of this is kind of like, you know, the Gators have been a really good story all season. And from what I've heard, you know, around the college basketball world is they can kind of win in any way and they can kind of do it all. So it just felt like a complete team to me. There's also some history. I've won one bracket pool in my life, one that my family and I always kind of go in. And when the Gators went back-to-back, I think in like 07, 08, the second year they had won, I won the pool that year. So I always remember the Gators for that reason. And, that's who I jumped on this year.
I actually took Florida as well. I mean, I was kind of looking at, I guess my Final Four came down to, and this is the thing, I kind of would have liked to have the balls to pick some team that, would shock everybody. But usually the cream does rise to the top by the time you get to the end. So I had Florida winning it. I'd shout out Rico Bosco. I went with Alabama. I'm sure that'll blow up in my face. Michigan State winning the other side. And I took Houston as well. So I guess that's 2 1s and 2 2s coming out of the brackets into the Final Four. What about you, Patty? Who did you have winning, and what was your Final Four?
I've got Houston winning. I think this is the year that Houston gets it done. I think from top to bottom, they have one of the most talented rosters. I think Kelvin Simpson is finally going to get it done with this group. He's done a really, really good job here. I think they're on, Ken Palm's ranking, one of the best defensive teams, which you need. They can shoot the 3-ball well. They're just really, really well-rounded. So I thought this was the year that they could possibly get it done. I'm super chalky this year as well. I do have some bigger upsets in the first round, but after that, maybe a couple of big seeds going to the Sweet 16. But I think this is the year the top 5, 6, 7 teams are just that much better than everyone else. I don't know if we have a Cinderella story. So I've got Michigan State and St. John's on one side with the Johnnies advancing. And I'm also with you. I'm a rider. Rode with Rico Bosco in Alabama and Houston, but ultimately Houston knocking off St. John's.
Jake, did you take Florida because you're a big Nicky Smokes guy?
Right. As if that guy's such. No comment on Nicky Smokes. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of Duke hate in this group. You guys are riders riding with Rico. I do have Duke going to the final. I have Florida knocking them off. So we'll see. My rest of my Final Four, I do have Michigan State as well. Sounds like we all kind of align there. And I actually have Tennessee on that side. You guys talked about Houston. Both of you guys have them going pretty deep. I have Gonzaga beating them in the round of 32. I don't know. I just don't trust Houston. I know this is the year that people are kind of like, this is the year to get behind Houston. They can actually make shots. They're known for offensive rebounding and great defense. But what they've struggled in the past and what they've ran into issues with is, shot making. And apparently they've kind of cleaned that up this year. So we'll have to see what they look like. They're going to get a pretty easy first-round matchup. And if the Gonzaga gets through, I think that'll be a great round of 32, like a weekend game, and we're already getting Houston-Gonzaga. Like, that'll be exciting.
I have a feeling you convinced me on a couple teams like Gonzaga from our spread picks that I'm looking, and I noticed that I picked them a couple runs in the on the actual bracket. But, of course, what really matters is what we're putting our money down as far as the betting games. What were you going to say there, Patty?
I was going to say, I think that they actually shoot the ball quite well, especially from 3. I think they have 4 guys on the roster that shoot over 40% from 3 points. And when you look at Gonzaga, I don't know. They're like, this isn't the same Gonzaga team that we've seen the last couple of years. Like, this is not nearly what it is. And I know you get lost in the shuffle with coaches and you fall in love with what they're able to do. For me, though, I got them beating Georgia, but I have them losing to Houston. I think it'll be a close game. I feel like this is the year that Houston really gets it done. Knowing that everyone, though, has picked a very chalky Final Four. Like, you look at a lot of the pundits down south, a lot of people taking Duke to win, a lot of people taking Houston to win, Michigan State to win, a lot of 1s and 2s. Mm-hmm. That kind of leads me to believe that there's going to be one Cinderella run.
Yeah.
Who's that going to be? Who is that going to be is the real question.
What about your guys' Elite Eight? Like, how high a seeds did you go? I mean, I already touched on Gonzaga. I have them going to the Elite Eight. They're the highest seed I have going to the Elite Eight as an 8. I also have Texas Tech, though, making a run I know that's going to have to play against Patty's Johnnies at some point, but I don't know. I heard some stuff about them yesterday. Apparently, probably the best 3 seed in the bunch, and I have them going to the Elite Eight. But unfortunately, the Florida side, I stuck with Florida. Any longer shots making it past the Sweet 16?
I have. I took Colorado State to beat Memphis and to beat Maryland, so to get to the next. Then they play Florida.
Right.
I had, let's see, we got Texas Tech, and I got Arkansas for you, Jake. I went Arkansas in those first 2 to come through and to beat St. John's, which I guess would be a pretty big upset in that next game. And then I do have A&M making it through up until Michigan in the finals. So, it's a 1-2 in the Duke-Alabama quarter. And then in the bottom one, we got Houston, and I took Kentucky again. That was almost default. I didn't want to take Tennessee, but I think those are the ones that, put it this way: if CSU and Arkansas are able to make some runs, those will be some nice bonus points for the upsets in my bracket, because a couple of them are looking pretty chalky with 1-2 matchups.
I'm insanely chalky for my Elite Eight. It's all 1s and 2s. Sweet 16, though, I've got UC San Diego making it out there, which, I know Auburn probably longest, like they've looked really good for the longest, but down the stretch, I could see them getting tripped up maybe before Michigan State. That's somewhere to look, but Yale, I think, is a team that could possibly go on a run to the Sweet 16. I know a lot of people are high on Marquette, but I like Michigan State, obviously, there. Maryland, I know I wouldn't say they're a big upset or anything, but, them as a 4 seed. I took Florida over Maryland in that spot. In one of my other brackets, though, I did take Maryland to knock off Florida. They're another team. And then Drake, I really like Drake, but again, they run into another team that I've got going deep in St. John. So it's the way it lines up. There's just too many teams near the top that I just don't think are susceptible to that major knock-up. The good thing about this, though, I will say this. I think in the round of 64, we'll get a few upsets. In the round of 32, there's not going to be as many. Maybe not as fun for the casuals to start the weekends off, but as we progress into the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and even the Final 4, we're going to have better games with better teams playing. How many times do we see the Cinderella run to the Elite 8, and then they run into a wagon and get the doors completely blown off of them? That happens so often. I think this will be the most quality basketball that we see from start to finish. At least the way that this bracket lines up, that's at least what it looks to me. Of course, there's going to be at least one Cinderella run. There's no doubt about that. A number 1 seeds get knocked off early. It always happens. It's going to bust all our brackets. But I just feel like this year, the cream is going to rise to the top. We haven't seen it in a couple of years, but that's what's going to happen here, at least I think.
Let's get to these games today. Well, actually, I should mention, if you do click the futures, obviously the tournament started, so the entire futures are off the board. We could have an upset and someone losing games that are happening, but we haven't started the East or the West region. Now, we just talked about Florida. Florida's minus 111 to win the West region. So if you just want to jump on Florida to come through as the 1 seed out of there, you can do that. Texas Tech is next up at 5-1. St. John's is 6-1, Maryland 10-1. My Colorado State team is 50-1. The Kansas Jayhawks are 12-1. I'll be fading them, and Missouri 14-1. And then over in the East, the Duke team, and again, Duke's a very public team, so this is maybe juiced up a little bit more than maybe you'd see in some others, but minus 141 for Duke. What's interesting that despite a bigger number for the favorite, the second team, Alabama, actually has a shorter number than Texas Tech at plus 425. This really does seem it's a little more spread out through the West. You got Arizona at plus 750 and Wisconsin at 10-1, then a drop down to 20 for BYU and 22 for St. Mary State. So Duke at minus 141, Florida at minus 111 if you want to ride with the chalk for the 1 seeds coming through. And then there's a couple of head-to-heads for most tournament wins that you can jump on. And one other prop, an interesting one, total wins by Big 12 teams in the tourney. I guess obviously we haven't had a Big 12 team playing yet, but over 11.5 is minus 133. And under is plus 105. As far as the games go, though, guys, I mean, I know we made some of our favorite picks when we did the draft. What's on the card for later on today when you guys look at the madness?
Yeah, I can jump in here. I'll be honest. I told this to Patty already. Like the next 3, these big spreads, man. Like I told you guys during the show, I just have a hard time really getting a gauge on either one of these sides. Like, could Houston and Auburn absolutely blow out their competition? Yes. It's 27.5, 32.5. Like, that's a lot of points as well. So it's like, I have a hard time betting these big spreads. I try to get creative with it sometimes. You take a first half or you try to jump on a total. I haven't really got a gauge of these next 3. McNeese State, I think they're a popular underdog bet. And I think if you're betting underdogs on the spread in this tournament, sprinkle a little bit of money line. Like, that's what I found out. Like, if you're going to be in these games, if you think this team's going to be in a game, anything could happen down the stretch. I did it with High Point, who's playing right now against Purdue. I like VCU a little bit later on. Gonzaga, I already talked about. I have them. And then Arkansas a little later on. I'm playing them spread and money line, as well as Yale. I like too many dogs, but the dogs, like, I don't know. When the early rounds, it's always fun to bet the dogs. I think, like Patty said, later on, cream will rise to the top. But I don't mind taking, an Arkansas, Yale, a Drake later on this evening.
Purdue, no Zach Edey, but they're making things happen inside. 10-point lead right now for Purdue. Got to get High Point back in this on the 7.5-point spread. Yeah, I mean, I'm on BYU. We talked about that one in our program. Mm-hmm. And I'm intrigued in this Georgia-Gonzaga game, Jake. I know you were on the Zags. I'm not sure whether this line has moved. Was it as big as it was, 7.5, when we talked about this when we did the spread draft?
It might have been 6. It's been pretty big.
I actually have it down at 5.5 on my sheet here, so that must have been what I got it at when we did the spreads draft a couple days ago. So it has moved a couple points. Which, I mean, 5.5 I would take. If you jumped on with me at 5.5, we got some closing line value by the looks of it. I mean, we'll see what happens leading up to 4:30.
No doubt about it. And the one that I do love, Jake, Arkansas. We talked about it. Plus 5.5 against KU, who is in the tourney, but has been nowhere near the usual standard that the team from Lawrence usually has. Patty, what about you? I'm seeing a few of the games that we talked about in the draft, but have you jumped on anything else or putting anything else together?
Well, just a reminder, I do have Patty brackets, Yale plus 7.5, Drake plus 6.5, and then St. John's minus 18.5. Still like those. San Diego plus 2.5 as well. I'm big on those picks there. I actually would also consider going money line Yale against Texas A&M plus 270. But when you look at some of the earlier games, the interesting thing about this, which game? Hold on, I want to pull up what the line is at now. I'm VCU BYU. I think VCU is a super trendy pick here, but I really like BYU. I actually think that they're a team that can go on a run. I like the way that they're built. They're an older team. Minus 133 for the money line is a little bit safer. I wouldn't be too afraid. Minus 2.5, but Huss, I'm with you on them. But I probably will just play it a little bit safe here. Minus 133 on the money line. The thing that really, really scares me, and I was very high on McNeese State. Will Wade's a great coach. He used to actually was a grad assistant at Clemson, so a bit of a revenge game for him. But there's been a lot of rumors around Will Wade and him taking another job. There's actually rumors out there right now that he is going to be taking the NC State job. I absolutely hate that he's talking about taking another job, doing any sorts of interviews. Like, if you are going to be a number 12 seed and knock off a number 5, you need to be completely and fully locked in. So I'm not saying flip it around here and take Clemson to cover the 7.5, because I do think McNeese is a great team, and you know what Will Wade's been able to do with that program is very good. But now I think it's a stay away. It's bad juju. We talked about, what was the other game we talked about, Jake, with upsetting the betting gods? That's another thing there.
Iowa State.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow's game. That's another one. So I'm not going to completely fade Will Wade here, but I'm now deeming this a stay away spot for me. That at one point probably would have been considering I took them in my bracket. I would be thinking about sprinkling them on the money line here.
Listen, before we transition over to hockey, and it sounds like we're getting some news on the Oilers lineup tonight for this big Oilers-Jets game. Let's see what's still cooking up in the combo cards. We've only had a couple games get underway. We've got now the lock shop. Are you guys seeing the Madness dogs still up? Even though this High Point game, I would imagine we can't bet this anymore because
probably going to refresh. I don't
playing.
see the dogs on mine.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Give it a refresh.
All right, so what's still up? Our Madness favorites play, though, is.
Yeah.
And listen, this is we got the Gonzaga at 5.5. So that is definitely a nice number. It may be gone down a little bit. I can tell you, I played all of these parlays earlier. It's at 472 now. Our favorites are, that was the Tennessee Volunteers, Gonzaga. Yeah, it was plus 631. So I guess with this line movement in the Georgia-Gonzaga game, it's come down a little bit. But regardless, still up there right now, plus 572 with Gonzaga 5.5. That line's moved to 7.5. Tennessee over Wofford at 18.5. And the Michigan State Spartans 17.5 favorites over Bryant. Patty, you got your Patty brackets going on, and that's a big one on laying the juice on St. John's, plus 3.5 on UC San Diego against the Michigan Wolverines, and Drake, who we talked about in the draft show, plus 6.5 against the Tigers of Missouri.
Yeah, I really like those ones there. The San Diego one scares me because it seems like everyone and their mother is on that one. Michigan playing really well as of late, but I talked about it on the draft show. Don't need to go into it too much. UC San Diego does not turn the ball over. They defend the fast break really well, and that's kind of all how Michigan generates their points. They score off turnovers, but they also turn the ball over quite a bit as well.
And Jake, why don't you hit on this? The funniest one, you guys come up with these. There is a West Coast one with Gonzaga, UCLA, and St. Mary's, and the Oregon Ducks all to win at plus 327. But I can't believe you were even able to figure out that there were 4 teams named Bulldogs in this. No bull, dogs. And there's 4 of them on one card at just about 15-1.
Yeah, so with this one, I did a little bit of research. I wasn't just able to kind of know, unfortunately. Patty's pretty good with the team names. I will give him that. Sometimes he'll say a team name, and I'm like, I had no idea that's what they were. But I went with so it's like no Bulldogs, but it's also the dogs. Because if you look, Gonzaga is also the Bulldogs. So I was in a weird spot where it's like, do I take the over in that game? So I just went with all the underdogs that are Bulldog teams. Georgia, Yale, Drake, and Bryant, all Bulldog teams, all on the spread, all as underdogs. Yeah, almost 15-1 right now if you want to take a little sprinkle on the Bulldogs over the next couple days here.
Anything else before we want to sling over to the pucks for tonight, guys, for the Madness?
Just one more thing, I guess, that we want to bring up. Again, if you took the 30% profit boost for the first 4, which shout out Jake and I, we were 3-1 in our picks on that one. Unfortunately, the luck from the first 4 hasn't translated early on in these 2 games. We'll see if we can turn that back around, though. But if you haven't That's okay. You have another opportunity now for the round of 64. So either in today's games, tomorrow's games, heck, if you want to parlay a couple as well, you get that 30% profit boost. Just head to the promotions tab, click the profit, click it there. You'll see all the information there. But the great thing about this one here, guys, is you don't even have to opt in. Even if you're just on the NCAA page, you click a bet. If you're able to do it, you click it, and you'll see that little green button on the bottom. You can just add that 30% profit boost, and you'll see how much extra money you're going to win if your bet does win.
Yeah, definitely easy peasy. And now that's you have the 132% for round one, so that's either today or tomorrow.
Yes,
perfect. And then we'll do it again on the weekend for round number two. At the Creighton just is up 19 right now. Not looking good for my Louisville wager. And High Point just scored 2 points in like 5 minutes. They're going to need a nice little run in the second half. But again, we're talking about a 7.5 point spread. It's 10. Nothing to worry about just yet. We'll stay on top of that game throughout the afternoon. Let's head over to the NHL because we've got a big one tonight. And I'm just looking. I see Stoff says that Leon Draisaitl is doubtful tonight and is day-to-day, according to head coach Chris Knobloch. So that is a little bit of a buzzkill. I mean, certainly you want to see the best of both of these teams when they go at it after the season that they both had. But for the Jets coming off that game against the Vancouver Canucks where they weren't particularly good defensively, which is a very rare thing to say about the Winnipeg Jets. Not having to deal with Leon Draisaitl, I guess, might touch. See if that line moved at all. Actually, now that I think about it, now with this Draisaitl move, because he's one of the few guys that I think can significantly move lines. Yeah, it moved big time. When we started the show, the Jets were plus 130, I believe, and the Oilers. Was that right? Or was it minus 110 or plus 110? Regardless, the Jets are now down to even money. And the Oilers are minus 118 for this game. And Patty, that just sort of speaks to, Dry's right there with Hellebuck. I mean, he is the favorite for the MVP. If you lose a guy like that, you know it will be reflected in the numbers up on the board.
Yeah, it's a definitely a big loss, and I think that's why the line is affected that way. I still do think that this is kind of a little bit of disrespect to the Jets. I wish I got it when the number was bigger. I think I'd still bet Jets plus 100. I think they're the better overall team. I know they just got their peepees whacked last game, but I think that actually entices you more to bet them again. I would also, now no Draisaitl, bounce back game for Hellebuck, I'd be inclined to bet the under. I know, Huss, we were on the wrong side of that Leafs and Colorado over yesterday, but we kind of talked ourselves out of it. We were saying like, well, the last time these two teams played, they were really, very irresponsible defensively. And Toronto just, dumped in a bucket of goals against the Flames. The power play looks great. And then we proceeded to say, that's why we're taking the over, where we should have been on the under. I think this one is in our faces here that we can't say no to it. I don't see Hellebuck having another game like that. I don't see this defense having another game like this. Sure, McDavid might put the team on his back and have a couple of goals here while Leon Draisaitl's out. I still think that this could be a 3-2 hockey game, and we're sitting pretty on the under here.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll get to. I've got some thoughts on where the Jets are going in, but you mentioned last night's Leafs-Avs game, and listen, I mean, was on the over. Obviously, that was the wrong side by the end. But Jake, I mean, I watched that game. I'm sure you did too. That could have easily been a 5-4 game. I mean, there was some crazy saves. Your guy Woll stepped up in a big way in some big moments. And I mean, listen, Blackwood made some saves for the Avalanche too. Like, they had those two early ones right at the start of the second period. And I'm like, okay, the floodgates are about to open. I mean, and then they traded some haymakers, and both goalies stood up. So I mean, listen, I'll you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. I didn't feel terrible about the play, watching the game actually being played, but credit to the goaltenders. But I had to get your thoughts. What an absolutely bizarre series of events that led to the winning goal. I would have loved to have had this happen the other way around and get Jake's take on the play, but I have a feeling it was, hey, listen, that's just going to happen every now and then. You got to play to the whistle, right?
Yeah, listen, I'll be honest. I was at my brother's hockey game. He's like wrapping up his minor hockey career, so I was kind of just watching the game via the Score app and whatnot. But I was getting a lot of texts about the game. The group chats were buzzing, and yeah, I did end up seeing the Steven Lorentz goal. For those who didn't see it, puck gets dumped down the ice on a penalty kill, and the ref's trying to get out of the way. He falls over, stops the puck in its tracks. Lorentz picks it up right around the opposing blue line, comes in and scores, ends up winning the game 2-1. But, I mean, what I take away from the game is Joseph Woll is really starting to find his game again. Like, this is a guy who was playing really, really well in the playoff series last year, really got the Leafs back into their playoff series against Boston last year, got injured in Game 6, had to go back to Samsonov, and they end up losing in 7. But early on in the season, I think a lot of the talk's been, is Stolar's the guy? Is he going to be the guy? And early on, that's what it seemed like. The way his Woll has played over the last few games here, it's pretty evident that he's not ready to give up the net just yet. And it's going to be interesting. Like, they only got, 14 games left, and they got to pick a goalie. Like, I'm not a big fan. And from a lot of what I've heard from other fans and other media, I'm not a big fan of the, tandem in net when it comes to the playoffs. You're going to need to find a guy that's going to be able to be your horse, carry you all that way. And Woll's making his case right now. So, big one for the Leafs last night against Colorado team that has been red hot. They're tied again with Florida at the top of the division. Same amount of games played. It's going to be a great run down the stretch. For a few games there, Huss, I was like, the Atlantic's out. They'll be lucky to even end up in the second spot. And they're right back in the race now. So, I'm fired up. I'm excited. The Leafs go again tonight against the Rangers.
Yeah, we'll get to that one in just a second. So, listen, back to this Winnipeg-Edmonton game. As far as this is the way the Oilers are shaping up for this game tonight, with the Draisaitl expected to miss tonight's game. You'll have 97 in the middle of line one with Jeff Skinner and Zach Hyman. And then line two is Nuge with Arvidsson and Podkolzin. Adam Henrique in the middle of Corey Perry and Connor Brown on line three. And then Janmark, Max Jones, and Kasperi Kapanen. Blue line, as usual. You got Ekholm and Bush, Nurse and Stetcher, Wallman, and Kulak. What's interesting about... Sorry, go ahead.
Where's Mark Carney slotting in tonight? I saw he was out on the ice.
Maybe they'll just throw him right into Draisaitl's spot.
John Shannon said he's a new left winger, so he might be sliding in with Davo or RNH there on the second line.
He was rocking the goalie skates. I don't know if you saw that. He's a goalie, I guess.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I thought that was good.
I see people are liking the potential of OT tonight. Spency 5-centsy, 4.20 odds for the Jets. The Jets oil draw. Timmy Tushu loves the 420 pick. Moving in, Carney and net, 100%. Well, there's been some issues with goaltending, not so much on the Winnipeg side of things. Although Hellebuck is coming off one of if you wanted to call it a poor outing, maybe his worst of the year. And as I said, that line has moved. The Jets were plus 110 when we started the program. They're now even money, and the Oilers are down to minus 118. As far as the props, and we'll put something together for a WST parlay. Player goals tonight. Obviously, don't take Draisaitl because he's probably not playing. Kyle Connor next up at plus 142. McDavid at plus 149. And I will say this, without Leon in the mix, I kind of think, not that I want to be backing Oiler goals, but I mean, if I was an Oiler fan, I think this might be like, this is a time that we've seen before McDavid sort of put the team on his back. And I think if you're a Winnipeg fan, you're expecting the best from Connor McDavid today. So wouldn't it all be surprised if he got on the score sheet at plus 149? And of course, Zach Hyman's always liable to make something happen over at plus 190.
The other guy I'll say is he's been hot the last 2 games. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I think he has like back-to-back 3-point games. To get a point tonight, minus 125, and I think to score is 3-1. Yeah, back-to-back 3-point games. He had a goal and 2 assists in the last outing against Utah, 3 assists in the outing prior. So, if you want to jump on R&H with Draisaitl, seemingly out of the lineup, that might be the guy to get a little value with.
Maybe I'll go with the Dusty version of the WST parlay and just plus 320 on McDavid not to get a point. The news numbers and not get a point is minus 106. Bouchard not to get a point, plus 133. If you do think this will be a low-scoring game and the Jets bounce back with a great defensive performance, there actually, I think, is some value on the under 0.5s. I don't know if I have the stones to predict a goose egg for one Connor McDavid, but we'll see on that. So that's the big one tonight. You mentioned, Jake, and it's a busy slate. We'll go through all the games here in just a second. But Leafs, Rangers, they played last night, so they are on the second end of back-to-backs. I mean, the Rangers might be the most schizophrenic team in the league right now. I mean, they've come up and had some big wins over this last little while, and then they go in a game that was so important for them in that playoff race and complete no-show against the Calgary Flames a couple nights ago. I have no idea what we're going to get from the Rangers. What are you guys feeling about the Leafs, though, coming off of that win, 2 wins this week, going into MSG to take on a team that you would assume would be very desperate?
Patty?
Yeah, well, I think this is, normally what you would call a quote unquote letdown spot for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I agree. Like you can't really gain an idea of what to expect from this Rangers team. But the fact of the matter is you're getting plus money on the Leafs over the Rangers. I get it coming off a back-to-back, but you have Stolarz in net who, as Jake said, Joseph Woll has been great. Stolarz is right now, I think, the front runner to be the starting goalie if the playoffs were to start today. The power play for the Toronto Maple Leafs has really started to heat up. I think they're actually the number 1 power play in the NHL since the calendar turned to March. Austin Matthews looks like he's got his jump back. So I would probably lean Leafs on the money line, but then again, like you said, just don't know what to expect from the Rangers. For me, though, if I'm looking at a betting angle for this one, it is an Austin Matthews goal at plus 112. He has been on fire as of late. He looks like he's starting to play a little more healthy. That power play has been elite this month, like I said. So looking at that, I would look at a Austin Matthews goal at plus 110. I'd actually look at a Matthews assist at minus 101, basically even money there. So those would be the 2 betting angles that I would look at in this one.
Yeah, I think these 2 teams met too just less than a month ago, end of February. There, Leafs did get them 3-2 in regulation. So if you want to look at that as some recent successes, Toronto really was able to shut it down after scoring the goal to take the lead in that one. But listen, Huss, my system in my group chat, it remains the same. If the Leafs are an underdog, we're betting them. I did it last night against Colorado. It cashed in. I will be jumping on the Leafs again today, even though I'm going to be up to my shoulders in March Madness pick.
Yeah, it is going to be Shesterkin. He's confirmed for the Rangers. Leafs not skating this morning, so Stolarz is unconfirmed, but you can pretty much put that one in ink. Here are your starting goalies for tonight. We can get to the odds on some of these games in a second. Urson is expected but unconfirmed for Philly and Washington. Charlie Lindgren is going for the Caps. Huge game for the Calgary Flames as they continue in this dogfight in the West. The rookie phenom Dustin Wolf confirmed for Calgary. He'll be going head-to-head against former Flame Jacob Markstrom. The Avs, after their loss last night, are back at it. Scott Wedgwood, unconfirmed for tonight. Blackwood went yesterday. Ottawa rolling out their horse, Linus Ullmark, coming off that end of their winning streak against Montreal earlier this week. Panthers at Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets, speaking of teams desperate for wins, they need one to get back into the mix. But it's Bob and Elvis, Bobrovsky, Merzlikins as the year goalies in the Florida-Columbus game. Vancouver and St. Louis. This game, speaking of playoff races, you want to talk about a high-leverage game that means everything to both teams. This is the game of the night, I think, when it comes to the playoff race. Looking at about a 20-25% playoff likelihood swing with a regulation loss on one way or the other. Lankinen unconfirmed for the Canucks tonight. And Four Nations hero Jordan Binnington in for the St. Louis Blues. The Habs are in New York on the island to take on the Islanders. It's Sam Montembeault and Ilya Sorokin both confirmed for tonight. John Gibson back at it in the net for the Ducks. They're in Nashville to take on the Predators. Eustace and Noonan likely for the Preds. Gibson confirmed for the Anaheim Ducks. Hell of a game between Tampa and Dallas. Vasilevsky and Casey DeSmith. So no Jake Ottinger tonight for Dallas, and with two of the top teams going at it. And then Darcy Kemper will be in net for the Kings. Arvid Soderblom unconfirmed for the Chicago Blackhawks. Hellebuck's unconfirmed, but take it to the bank. You'll see 37 in net tonight for the Jets. Stewie Skins is in for the Oilers. Huge game for the Utah Hockey Club. Likely we'll see Karl Vejmelka. UPL for Buffalo is unconfirmed right now. And Utah, after getting waxed by the Oilers in their last game out, and saw Calgary, Vancouver, and St. Louis all win that game, they got to get that win. Swayman unconfirmed for the Bruins. At Vegas Golden Knights, Aiden Hill with his new contract, he is confirmed. And then the final game of the evening, Georgi Romanov for San Jose at home. Freddie Anderson unconfirmed for the Carolina Hurricanes. Boys, I mean, let's get into a couple of these picks. I mean, Pat, when you look at the board for tonight's hockey, for putting together a little partner parlay, is there a game or two that you would like to put forth for a little three-gamer?
Now, I think this might be too juicy for a partner parlay, but does Flames being plus 148 against the Devils seem like... I
don't mind it. I don't mind it.
Why are they almost plus 150? I get it. They're on the road. They're flying across the country, but the Devils stink. The Devils are in shambles. Devils are going to put Tank in the grave, to be quite honest. I just don't understand it. And you said Wolf is starting, right?
Yeah, he's confirmed.
Man, I know they just got pumped for 6 against Toronto, but I mean, Toronto is a much different team than the Devils. That one was one that certainly jumped out to me. There's a lot of
they watched that game against the Leafs. I think they watched that game against the Leafs. They came out, they won on Broadway against the Rangers.
Yeah.
And I really do think that there's a chance that Calgary can sort of leapfrog over this game. Now, listen, the Devils have won 4 of their last 5. They got crushed by the Penguins 2 games ago, though, and gave up 7. And before that, they had that tight game against the Oilers where they won 3-2 and then wins over the Blue Jackets and Flyers. I just think that what Calgary was able to do in New York, now, again, granted, a lot of that was on a pathetic performance by the Rangers.
Exactly.
But, I mean, we want to talk about taking advantage of desperate teams right now. Calgary is absolutely that team. They've got their number 1 guy in net who's been on a real roll right now. I don't mind at all taking a swing on Calgary. And, you know, I think if we started off and we put a plus 148 in there, we can probably take a couple other games, maybe at a bit better odds, and put together something that. So let's throw that up. Another game that I love, and I know they're playing on the second end of back-to-back nights, but Colorado. And listen, I'm all in on Ottawa. I've loved what they've done. But to me, the Avalanche are in another tier. And I have a feeling that Big Mac is going to be in a little bit of an ornery mood after being stoned the way they were last night by Justin Walls. So The winning streak is over for Ottawa. They lost that game to Montreal, but they're still in a really, really good spot. And this Avalanche team, I think, is really motivated to sort of come together. You saw Nichushkin being a beast last night, as always. No rivalries. It's a West versus an East team.
Yeah.
I like the way Ottawa's come up big within their divisional games and the head-to-head games of teams in and around them. But I don't mind Colorado at all at minus 120.
I've got one more here, and if we're going to throw that other one in there, I mean, I still think minus 244 is too much, but Caps in reg minus 149. The Flyers have not scored a goal in 2 games. They're shut out in back-to-back games. That is pitiful. And this Washington team, they are on a mission. They are a runaway train right now, and I think their lead is safe enough where I don't think they're going in neutral. Like a lot of teams be like, okay, like let's stay healthy. They're still trying to get Ovechkin the record here. They're still playing hard hockey here. So I really like Caps in reg minus 149. It's a bit too much for me to bet by itself. But if we're going to throw it into a parlay, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Jake, what about you? You got a game or two that you're liking? I mean, I know you do like the Leafs. Maybe we'll keep the Leafs and the Jets-Oilers game out of this and try and
we'll keep that out.
Go with teams that we don't have any skin in the game for to cloud our judgment.
We talked about a team, in desperation of wins right now, and we're talking about the Flames. It's a little bit, juicy, but I scroll down and see Utah minus 171 against the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo Sabres aren't playing for much at this point. They're playing for next season. Utah Hockey Club is very much in this playoff race. And I think anytime you can jump on, especially in a parlay, you can jump on a team that needs wins more than anything against a team who doesn't really need anything in terms of the Buffalo Sabres. I think I'm on board for that. So, I don't know. I would throw that in the ring. I know it's juicy at minus 171, but, if we were thinking about taking the Flames, I just threw this up. This is before Patty started talking about the Caps. Flames Hockey Club Avalanche plus 621 in a parlay. Or we take out the Flames at Patty if you're worried about that big number there, and we won't get as much juice, but let's see what the Caps and reg looks like as part of that parlay.
386.
386. So I mean, we're giving up a lot of juice, but a little bit safer. I'm easy either way. I like the Flames. I like the Caps as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, between the two, Washington in reg or Utah at home against Buffalo on the money line, I think I might lean Utah on that one just because you've got the opportunity to and listen, all it needs even if Washington wins, sometimes like these divisional games will be tight. They'll go, teams know, we just got to get the point. So I think I'd probably lean Utah as opposed to the Caps in reg. But I think we started off with Calgary. We like the number. If
we have to keep it,
we leave this one in. Or do you guys like the Avalanche at minus 120 in this game coming off last night?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
100%. I mean, this team's like one of the hottest teams in hockey. How many times are they going to drop 2 in a row with how good they've been? And they've been getting goaltending from both guys. Blackwood and Wedgwood have both been pretty solid. So I'm on board. And anytime we're betting against the Sens, I'm also on board because I feel about that. Well,
listen, so why don't we take out the Washington in reg and just go with the 3 money lines? We got Jake's Utah, Patty's throwing out Calgary, all throughout Colorado. We'll start it off at plus 621, and we'll probably be sniffing close to 7-1 when this sucker gets up.
Love it.
We love it? All right. Sounds good. Okay, so we're going to lock that in. And as I say, I will put together something for a little WST parlay later on that we'll discuss on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But if you're not able to join us, check the exclusives a little later on, and we'll throw something up for that. So again, we're going Colorado, Utah, Calgary, all money line. Calgary's kind of the riskier pick, but we all seem to like it. Big game for the Flames tonight. So that'll be up in the combo cards. Keep your eyes out for that. Just quick rundown of some of these other games that we didn't touch on. If you want to hit Florida Panthers minus 189, Blue Jackets 158. We mentioned that Leaf game. Leafs are getting plus 110. Rangers are minus 130. We talked about this game. The Canadians and Islanders. Islanders minus 139. Habs are on a bit of a roll. I mean, there's another underdog that you might want to consider tonight at plus 118. St. Louis minus 141. Vancouver plus 120. Listen, I'm not betting this game. I'll be very interested to see how this goes. The Blues have been on a heater. But Vancouver played one of their best games of the year against the Winnipeg Jets a couple nights out, and I think everyone knows how important this game is. One of the games of the night, in addition to Winnipeg Edmonton, is Tampa-Dallas. Dallas is minus 115, Tampa minus 102. We got the Preds at home minus 169 favorites against the Ducks. Kings minus 252 faves on the road in Chicago. And then those last couple games, Bruins and Golden Knights. The Golden Knights minus 261 favorites. Man, Boston. Boston has really fallen. Well, I mean, you consider how many guys they traded. They're into next year territory. And the Canes minus 345 tonight in the Shark Tank against the Sharks.
This is the no one's gonna like this in the chat. I already know. This is the back the Leafs parlay tonight. Columbus to win over Florida, Leafs to win in New York, and Dallas to win over Tampa. That's plus 913. I want that on the record if it comes through tomorrow.
All right. I have to, before we go, hit one other thing tonight. Canada, Mexico in the Coliseum. Nations League looking for our first trophy in 25 years. A win against the Mexicans would move Canada to play, in all likelihood, the United States in the final. This is the way things look right now. Canada, whoa, this line has moved a lot. Yesterday was plus 170 for Canada on the three-way, plus 165 for Mexico. Canada is now plus 220. Mexico plus 135, and the draw is plus 140. As far as the money line, if you will, the draw no bet, Canada plus 125, Mexico minus 147. I'm actually surprised this line's moved the way that it is. It's not like this game is in Mexico, although they'll probably have the majority of fans cheering for them. But I mean, listen, are people forgetting what our program's done in the last few years and owning CONCACAF, including the Mexicans? Give me Canada tonight. That might be the play of the day coming up a little later on the Coolbet socials a little later on. But you can click that. It's in the margin right there. Canada versus Mexico. Dive in on it and back the red and white. And again, if you want to do it in the three-way, it's plus 120. I see Timmy Two Shoes was throwing out one. Canada, another exciting first half under 1.5. An exciting draw, and first half under 1.5. We will take that. Let's see. Quick update on the games as we roll out. High Point's getting back into it. They're down 4. Like it. Creighton's still up 14 now with just under 8 minutes left in the first game. We'll see if we can salvage a big comeback win. Fellas, great stuff. We will look forward to chopping it up again tomorrow, seeing what's left of our brackets. Hopefully we can hit a couple of these parlays. And again, we'll get that NHL combo card partner parlay coming up in just a minute. Fellas, enjoy the rest of the day. Don't get too much work done.
We'll try. We'll
do our best here. We'll do our best.
Appreciate it, fellas. We're going to head it back, send it back over to ESTHQ, and I'll be firing it up on the Winnipeg Sports Talk channel in just a few minutes to get ready for this big Jets-Oilers till tonight in Edmonton. For Pat Gregoire, for Jake Bolin-Moss, and on behalf of our sponsor, Coolbet Canada, I'm Huss. Enjoy the madness. Enjoy the games tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow in the Lock Shop.